Have you ever heard of the terms scope creep or feature creep? This is something that happens in game development where you add things that you didn't originally plan to add to your game. Let's say a new mechanic, a new cutscene, a certain puzzle. And as you keep adding these ideas, it can mess up the plan you originally had in mind and then turn your game into something that you never intended it to be. So I think it's important that we plan ahead of time what kind of constraints we want to put in our game, and one thing I'm doing is writing down the constraints that I want to put on my game. So, in case you aren't aware, I'm making a platformer that's about traveling between the real world and a world full of AI slop. And a lot of it is going to have like sort of a Cuphead inspired animation. I'm going to hand draw on all the assets in the background and then scan them into the game engine. And here are the constraints that I have for my game. So first is I'm gonna have like a Mega Man style level design, because in case you didn't know, Mega Man is the game where you have to fight different robot masters, and each one is a different theme. So instead of having to worry about making the levels progressively difficult, the developers could focus on making levels based on different themes. Like, for example, there's like a Cutman, there's a Fireman, so they make like fire theme levels. There's an Iceman, so they can make like winter theme levels, things like that. Uh, Next is retro style animation. I use air quotes because I'm actually referring to the older games, again, like Mega Man, Super Mario Bros. One of the reasons their animations look good is because they used as few frames as possible, as opposed to like what Disney did, where it had like a million different frames in all of their like old animated movies, and that makes it easier to animate. And I'm hoping it'll give my game sort of that retro game feel. Another is I'm going to have an easy combat system. It's just going to be shooting, punching, and kicking. I have thought about maybe doing like jump and air attacks if possible, but I'm not sure. Another thing I'm considering is easy lore drops, because I want to have like lore in my game. I want to have like a little bit of a mystery hidden in the game story for players to like try and solve. But I'm trying to figure out how to do that without, you see a lot of games like Poppy Playtime, where they have like these like tapes you have to watch, and they can just go on and on and on. And the player just wants to, finish the game. They don't want to have to stay and listen to everything. So I thought about maybe like audio cues or cassettes that the player can listen to so that they can still play. I'm not entirely sure about that. Another idea I had would be like observable trophies. Like, for example, in Super Smash Bros., there's like these trophies based on characters that you can look at and read in the museum section of the game. And I figured I could do something like that where I hide bits of lore in them, pieces of paper, uh, certain objects, things like that. And then the last constraint I have for my game is I want to keep the art style as simple as possible. Kind of relates to the animation constraint. I do want to have kind of like an anime style, but I might mix it with like some of the simple modern animation styles that you see in a lot of TV shows, just to make it easier to draw. And those are the constraints I have for my game so far. If you enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, and I will see you in the next level.